Hi there, my name's Colin and this is the Action Figure Resource video channel, the place for all your action figure news, reviews, tutorials and guides. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome and I hope you enjoy my videos. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Toy Biz's first release of the Marvel Legends series in 2002. This line of figures only included 4 characters: Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk and the Toad. Although there are only 4 characters released in this line, there were up to 18 different variations and figures available. Toy Biz released the first series of the Marvel Legends line in 2002 as a spin-off to the Spider-Man Classics line, copying the same clamshell packaging design and comic insert that had proved very popular with fans. We used the clamshell packaging for this line rather than blister packs, which tend to be stronger, more protective and collector friendly. This meant that the backing card was actually inside the packaging rather than a blister mounted onto the backing card, giving both the figure and the comic book or poster added protection, but both were still clearly visible. The back of the packaging featured photos of the other figures and vehicles in the set, as well as the character's bio, stats and other information at the top, and a proof of purchase coupon at the bottom. Originally, it was only produced in the 6-inch scale, but later lines also included 4, 8 and 12-inch figures. The Marvel Legends line was an instant hit because they were sculpted meticulously with amazing detail and articulation that was hard to find in the other figures at this time. Toy Biz was also smart with their marketing, and the inclusion of accessories such as stands and bases, alternate suits, posters and comic books made these toys more desirable because each figure came with something unique. Toy Biz introduced the Build-A-Figure concept in 2005, which remains a very popular part of the line to this day. With the Build-A-Figure concept, each figure released in each individual wave or series came with part of a deluxe figure that was only available as a Build-A-Figure. And in order to complete this figure, you had to collect all the figures in the series. However, that said, you can usually find complete Build-A-Figures being sold on eBay. In 2007, Hasbro acquired the Marvel license and continued to produce the Marvel Legends line, but without the comic being included in the packaging. And also, they discontinued the finger joints, which have become standard on the Toy Biz figures. Hasbro also scaled down the number of new Marvel Legends waves that were produced, so much so that it was rumoured that Hasbro was going to scrap the line altogether. But at the 2010 San Diego Comic-Con, Hasbro announced that due to fan requests and the up-and-coming slew of Marvel movies, that the line was to be resurrected in 2012. And since then, the line has gone from strength to strength, with no signs of it letting up. All in all, there were 16 Marvel Legends waves released by Toy Biz, and since then there have been approximately 17 more waves released by Hasbro. This also doesn't include the numerous exclusives and variants that have been released, and there seems to be no signs of it letting up, as Marvel announced more movies for the Marvel Universe. Before I take an in-depth look at each of these individual characters, subscribe below, smash that like button and click on the bell icon. When you click on the bell icon, to select all on the drop-down menu to be notified of all my future videos. Also, don't forget to wait until the end of the video to download your free collector's guide. The first figure we're going to take a look at today is the Captain America figure.
actionfigureresource.com. Yesterday's toys, today's treasures.
The Captain America figure in this series was one of the most iconic figures Toy Biz released, with the super soldier standing 6 inches or 15 centimeters tall and ready to protect the universe. The sculpt of this figure had great attention to detail, especially his facial features. His biceps and muscles were all big and burly to match his strength. However, the body proportions seemed to be a bit off. His abdomen was unnaturally short and narrow. The arms were longer than usual and the thighs were long, but the shin was a bit short. However, despite this, the figure looked extremely good. Toy Biz also did an excellent job with the paintwork. The paint was all glossy and replicates the original character from the comics. His suit is painted in the blue, red and white of the American flag, and the scales were also painted rather than sculpted on. The paint on the figure was well applied with little overlapping or bleeding. One of the best and most exciting features of the Marvel Legends line was the amount of articulation the figures had, with about 32 different points of articulation on each of the figures. Previous to this, most action figures released typically only had Kenner's 5 standard points of articulation. Captain America didn't have any special action features, but he came with his trusted shield. The figure also came with a mountable wall display stand, featuring a destroyed window and tank. Also, there was a 32-page Captain America comic book. As a collector, this was one of the most collectible figures, being amongst the first of the Marvel figures to be released, and being a popular character. There were 2 variations of this figure produced, one for the US market and one for the UK market. There wasn't any difference in the sculpting of the figures, but the UK figure came with a gold bordered comic book. Mint on the card, the standard Captain America figure goes for between $11.70 and $40. However, the variant with the gold poster that was available in the UK and Canada goes for between $30 and $60. Loose, it goes for between $19.99 and $27.99. The second figure in this series was the gold Iron Man. Toy Biz's Marvel Legends Series 1 marked the first release of the gold armoured Iron Man. Although this armour only lasted for about 2 years in the comic, it was loved and very popular with fans. The figure's sculpting had a decent level of detail. And Iron Man appeared super bulky in full gold and red coloured armour, with a horned-rimmed look, and despite his armour, you could see his abs and well-defined muscles. There were circles in his palms where he could aim and fire at villains, and his trademark power spot on his chest. Iron Man stood tall at over 6 inches in height. He also had a removable horn-rimmed mask that could easily be popped off to reveal Tony Stark's face. Surprisingly, they used a different head sculpt on this figure and the yellow Iron Man than the Stealth Iron Man, which wasn't painted as well and wasn't as accurate or detailed as the Stealth Iron Man head sculpt. The paintwork on this figure is pretty basic, with his standard red armour on a yellow body. Like Captain America, Stark also has over 30 points of articulation, so he can take various stances before fighting. For an accessory, this figure came with an energy tower. This was a platform that Iron Man could be stood on to recharge his suit. He also came with an Iron Man comic with a gold variation for the UK and Canadian market. Prices for this figure on the secondary market vary quite considerably, depending on the variant you are looking for and its condition. The standard gold armoured Iron Man sells for between $12 to $50 mint on the card and loose for approximately $6.50. Next, we have the yellow Iron Man. The yellow Iron Man figure made his first appearance in the earlier Toy Biz Iron Man line, and the same sculpt was also used for the gold Iron Man figure in this line, except that this figure had a different mask. The gold Iron Man had a much fiercer looking mask with two horns at the top and two bar-like teeth on the mouthpiece, whereas the yellow Iron Man looked almost as if he was smiling. Also, the mask on both the figures could be popped off to reveal Tony Stark's face underneath. The articulation and accessories were also the same. The variations of this figure came with gold posters of Iron Man. On the secondary market, this figure sells for between $24.99 and $69.97 and loose for around $24–25. The third Iron Man variant in this series was the Stealth Armoured Iron Man. The sculpt for the Stealth Iron Man was also the same as the other Iron Man figures in this series. The most noticeable and obvious difference was the paintwork. The Stealth Iron Man sported a dark blue armour that gave him stealth abilities. His mask could also be easily popped on and off to reveal Tony Stark's face, which on this figure was slightly different to the other two, with better detailing and better sculpting. Other than the paintwork on his face, there was very little paintwork on the figure, as his stealth suit was a solid navy blue, except for the red power cell in his chest and the power cells in the palms of his hands. The articulation, as with the other figures, was very good, with an excellent range of movement, but some of the joints were very loose. The figure also came with a mountable display stand with a Stark Enterprises sign and a comic book. There were some variants of this figure that didn't have the stealth sticker on the front of the clamshell. This figure, mint on the card, sells for between $19 and $69.97 and loose for around the $6 to $7 mark. The next figure we're looking at is the Hulk. The Hulk in Series 1 was an amazing figure that stood out literally. Made to scale, the Hulk was an awesome figure that stood head and shoulders above the rest of the line. The figure was very detailed with awesome muscle exaggeration, and the sculpt did an excellent job of capturing the Hulk's power and anger. The sculpt had his veins running across his arms and chest, and his green eyes and face were filled with anger as he was posed with his teeth bared in a menacing growl. Overall, the sculpt was simply amazing, but Hulk's upper body seemed to be a lot larger and out of proportion to his small lower body. To keep him in proportion to the other figures in this line, he stood at over 7 inches in height. The paintwork complemented the excellent sculpting, capturing every detail even down to his hair. The articulation was, as with the other figures in this line, superb, with more than 30 different points of articulation. There were different variants on the articulation, and he came with either bendy hands or articulated hands. Otherwise, all the variations had the same. The figure came with a base that looks like a smashed wall to pose your figure on. Some of the variations also came with a fierce-looking poster of the Hulk, or an Incredible Hulk comic book. This figure generally has a lower price point than Iron Man and Captain America and the Toad, but again this depends on which variant you're looking for and its condition. The standard figure sells mint on the card for between $9 and $36. Loose, he sells for between $13.99 and $22.90. The different variants of the Hulk featured the Hulk with articulated hands in the US or bendy hands. In Canada, he was released with a gold poster and articulated hands. The UK version also had a gold poster and articulated hands, but there was also a variation in the UK with a gold poster and bendy hands. That means there is a total of 5 different variations of this figure. The last figure we're looking at in this series is the Toad. The sculpting and the paintwork on this figure was probably the hardest and best of all the characters. The detailing on him was fantastic. The stitching and texture of his clothing and the weathering was perfect, bar some overlapping in a few places. According to the Marvel Universe, the Toad, aka Mortimer Tonybee, was an evil mutant who had been taken in by Magneto to form the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. He's basically a mean, vengeful villain. From his evil-looking face to his entire outfit, little was spared in terms of detailing on this figure. Even the rubbery toad in his hand was well designed, with a mean look to follow. Although the character wasn't as tall as the others, standing at only about 5.5 inches in height, he made up for it in spades with his look. The Toad was not as well articulated as the other figures in this series, with only 10 points of articulation. For a display stand, he came with a very detailed sculpted swamp, complete with snakes, bugs, skulls and reeds. The water was a clear plastic cover that could be removed to reveal the detail underneath. The package also included a free X-Men comic book. However, the variation of the Toad figure came with a gold-framed poster of the villain. This figure was extremely hard to find and as a result sells for premium prices on the secondary market. One word of warning though, this figure is very delicate and is prone to break quite easily on some of his points of articulation, so please handle with care. Mint on the card, this figure sells for around $125 and loose for about $25. Because of his rarity and the difficulty in finding any examples, these are the only prices I could find for him. So, to quickly recap the total figures available in this series, we had the standard Captain America US version, Captain America with a gold poster in the US, Captain America with a gold poster in the UK, a gold armoured Iron Man in the US, gold armoured Iron Man with gold poster in the UK, and a gold armoured Iron Man with gold poster in Canada, the Hulk with articulated hands released in the US, also with bendy hands in the US, a Hulk with a gold poster and articulated hands in Canada, Hulk with gold poster and articulated hands in the UK, and the Hulk with a gold poster and bendy hands in the UK. The Iron Man Yellow was released as a standard figure in the US and also with a gold poster. The Iron Man with the gold poster was also released in Canada. The Stealth Iron Man had two versions, one with stealth on the label and one without stealth on the label. And then there were the two variations of the Toad, the US one with no poster and the UK one with a gold poster. The prices here are for the standard figures unless otherwise stated. This is because of the number of different variations that were available at different levels of rarity. So finding the exact prices for all of them is extremely difficult. I would therefore suggest you watch my video on how to value your action figures and to get up-to-date accurate values here. All prices quoted were correct when making this video in January 2021. In order to get the most up-to-date prices, I checked several online and offline sources. All the prices are for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation offer to buy any at these prices. Make sure you subscribe below, smash that like button and click on the bell notification. When you click on the bell notification, make sure you select all on the drop-down menu to receive notifications of all my future videos.
actionfigureresource.com. Yesterday's toys, today's treasures.